Welcome to the World United. Welcome to the World United.
Welcome to the World United. Today, we are going to throw some light on the power of thought. What is thought all about? How to actually generate thoughts? How to make this thought process more eventful as per our needs and expectations? And what is this thought process related to spiritual evolution of the mankind? We're all going to discuss about this. And let us first try to understand what this human being, otherwise called as in Latin Homo sapiens, exactly means. Human is called as sapiens, that means sapient being. All the creatures other than humans are called as sentient beings. Sentient beings means these are the creatures or the beings who do not actually verbalize their own thought process, who do not actually express their own thoughts and feelings in languages the way humans do. Humans are the only exception in the entire biodiversity of the planet Earth which use language for communication, which use language for expression for their thoughts and feelings. Hence, for most of the human beings, majority of the thoughts are in the language which they speak most. The mother tongue of that particular person reflects in most of the thoughts. The thoughts happen in the form of a language. If language doesn't exist, the number of thoughts also get reduced on a daily basis. On an average, each human being thinks about 50,000 thoughts, or maybe more on an average. But the yogis think very few thoughts. The yogis think as and when they need. The yogi's mind is so conscious that thoughts won't come as stray thoughts. Thoughts won't come as clouds. For yogis, thoughts do not come on their own. They have to pass through the membrane of consciousness. But for the average untrained human being, there is no protective barrier. Thoughts just come like clouds, like cloud bursts. Sometimes thoughts rain, thoughts pour down. For average untrained human being, they think a lot, so much so that thinking has become their addiction. When we think of addictions, we think of alcoholic addiction, we think of tobacco addiction, we think of any substance addictions. But excessive thinking is the worst form of addiction. Thinking more, thinking the same thing frequently, repeatedly, recurrently, unwantedly, uninvitedly is a disease, is a pathology, is a psychological pathology. It is a psychological malady. Most of the human beings are suffering from this psychological malady called as excessive thinking. Why? Why most of the people are becoming addicts for thinking excessively? They have become thinking robots. Robotic thinking, recurrently, repeatedly thinking the same thing again and again and again, knowing that it is unrewarding, knowing that it is not going to be really useful, but still people have become more obsessive with thinking. They have become more impulsive with thinking. They have become more compulsive with thinking. They cannot live without thinking. Thinking makes them more secure. Thinking makes them more safe. Thinking makes them feel that they are with themselves. If they try to change their thinking, they feel they are not themselves. The reason why they want that repeated robotic type of thinking so as to feel and identify with themselves in the routine known way. The reason why most of the human beings are living like biological robots. Thinking in a grooved way, patternized way, programmed way, postulated way. What is this thought all about? Where do they emerge from? We have cells in the brain called as neurons. The neuron cell is the most evolved cell in the human body. We have different types of cells as per the organs. For liver, it is called as hepatic cell. For heart, it is called as cardiac cell. For bone, it is called as an osteophyte. For muscle, we call it as a muscle spindle. For kidney, it is called as a nephron. Like that, we have different types of cells. Among all these cells emerging from different parts of the body, be it from bones, soft tissues like heart, different types of organs like intestines, like kidneys, like liver, spleen, etc. Neuron cell is most evolved cell. The number of cells which we are born with do exist in the same number till we die. The neuron cells are the cells which do not multiply at all. They do not multiply. They stay fixed. And each neuron cell has a long axis. And each neuron is connected to every other neuron in the form of electrical currents and vibrations, which are called as technically synapses. The electrical current flows through these neural synapses, the junctions and networks between two neurons. For people who think repeatedly, the thoughts move as per a neuronal track. These repetitive thoughts create a type of thinking called as what I would like to call today grooved thinking, a patternized thinking. And these patterns create something called as personality. A definable part of ourselves is called as personality. Undefinable part of us is the soul. Soul can never be defined. It is undefinable, indescribable. But what makes one describable, definable is the personality, which is created by this grooved thinking. That we think frequently, that we think more, creates something called as a personality. It's a veil, it's a curtain in front of the soul. Once this curtain is removed, the real picture of the soul becomes visible. So we need to shift from this brood, patternized, programmed thinking to a conscious, thoughtful, mindful thinking. And this needs an exercise called as meditation. Each thought that we think has got some amount of energy. When we calculate in terms of electrical volts, each smallest thought has got 0.5 volts of energy. When the same thought is thought repeatedly in a conscious way, we generate so much of energy. Otherwise, if we reduce all the unwanted thoughts in the brain, uninvited thoughts in the brain, when we make every thought conscious, the thought, the so-called focused thought, the centered thought, converged thought, singularized thought acquires a lot of power. The thought accumulates power. The thought acquires power. How? With the help of meditation, what happens is there is an element of letting go. If there is no element of letting go, that type of meditation cannot be clearly resultful. There cannot be any result. if you cannot let go of what you think you are. When you are able to remove all the patterns and programs of the mind, then you come out of this brood addictive thinking, and everything becomes more mindful, everything becomes more conscious, everything comes to the surface of the light, everything comes under naked vision. When everything comes under vision, the thoughts cease to be unconscious. So with the help of the letting go phenomenon of meditation, what happens is you identify yourself with the space between the thoughts. There is always some space between the thoughts. That space is filled with calm, quietude, tranquility and peace, harmony. That is the real you, the soul element. The real you lies in the space between the thoughts. With the help of meditation, thoughts should not be controlled or monitored or manipulated. Instead, identification or shift of consciousness from thought to this emptiness has to happen. A shift of consciousness from thought to space has to happen. In meditation, we don't control thoughts. We don't try to monitor or manipulate the thoughts. We don't try to change the thoughts. We don't try to bring down the number of thoughts. We just move or shift the consciousness from thought to thoughtlessness, or the space in between the thoughts. It is only shift from thought to thoughtlessness, to emptiness or silence. This exercise of shift from thought to space is called as meditation. The power of the thought, or the thought emerges into a very powerful entity, or the thoughts emerge or transform into things when this shift happens in a powerful way, in a deeper way, in a more conscious way. And when the emptiness or quietude becomes your personality, then you are called as a yogi or a master or the awakened one. The space has to be identified. The space has to be connected with. This space is the most important thing. Thoughts are things. Thoughts lead to manifestation. The entire planets, the galaxies, the nebula, everything that is physical, everything that is called as matter and antimatter is basically a reflection of the thoughts of the universe, the thoughts which emerged from the Hiranyagarbha, or the center of the universe, turned into a physical reality or non-physical realities. Every reality is based upon a thought form or a collection of thoughts. It is a dream of the consciousness which is higher, which is more deeper, which is unfathomable. That unfathomable core, we call it as God. We are calling it as universe. Unexplainable. When something becomes unexplainable, we call it as godly or God. And this entire manifestation of the universe is nothing but a reflection of one's thought. We are living in a thought plane. The entire physical matter is nothing but a vibration. It is a continuous energy vibration, which has a force, which has a power, which is beyond this space-time continuum, which is beyond all this space-time wrap overs. We are sitting in a plane of thoughts, thought vibrations, and all our 60 trillion cells of the body do think. It is not about just neuron. They do think. But because of the higher power of the neurons, all the cells become surrendered to the highest cell, the apical cell, the leader cell of the body called as neuron. And when this thinking process go bizarre, when this thinking process become more turbulent, we call it as neurosis. The excessive thinking of the neurons, excessive activity of the neurons lead to neurosis. And this grooved patronized thinking make the other cells more dormant, make other cells more indolent, more sleepy. Most of the cells go into sleep when certain thoughts are picked up and made active continuously. When we move towards thought to space, what happens is the neuronal network becomes more wider. The neural networks become more deeper. And all the functionalities and faculties which the brain or mind is capable of will come to the conscious, usable, utilizable way. The complete holistic integrated neuronal network has to happen in an integrated way, and this happens with the help of meditation alone. Nikola Tesla says, clear thinking is more important than deeper thinking. Clear thinking means dropping all the debris of the thoughts, making all the unorganized or disorganized thoughts and its patterns into a more organized way. The mind, which is brought into the control, should not be called as a controlled mind. The mind which is brought into control should not be called as a controlled mind. Controlled mind doesn't exist. It resists, it persists, it fights back, creating a negative thought patterns. Instead, what has to be understood is the mind has to be pacified, not controlled. The mind has to be understood, not controlled. The mind has to be investigated, not controlled. We need to learn from the mind, never to control the mind. All these controlling mechanisms that are said in the world are all erratic and aberrant. They are faulty. There is nothing like control of mind. It is only understanding of the mind that is very, very important. When you understand the mind, that means when you understand the thoughts and its patterns and its programs, the mind drops itself. The mind sinks into vast emptiness. The mind sinks into vast silence inside, which is otherwise called as the nirvana. There is nothing to be known about the chakras or kundalini, the flow of energy. No need to know, learn all these things. It will happen. When it happens, you will understand. And to make that happening blossom, you need to meditate frequently on a daily basis, shifting the focus from thought to space. Many people call positive thinking or negative thinking. Some people say that you must always pick up positive thoughts so that you become more and more positive. When you pick up only the positive thoughts, ignoring negative thoughts, on one fine day, you become more and more negative because you are controlling, suppressing, oppressing all these negative thoughts. In the word oppression or suppression or depression, let us try to understand these words. Depression, D means without that, without pressure. There is no optimum pressure inside. That's why we call it depression. Suppression, that means super pressure. Oppression, more pressure. Pressure becomes erratic. It never becomes optimum when you suppress all the negative thoughts. Negative because they are not required. Negative because they are not wanted. But when you throw light, it is not the positive thought or the negative thought that is important. The real thought from a spiritual perspective, from the perspective of one's awakening and enlightenment, lies in third dimension, neither in positive way or negative way. It lies in third dimension. It lies in the meridian. All the positive thoughts are also negative thoughts because you are choosing. You don't have to choose thoughts. You have to understand thoughts. You have to choose silence. When you choose silence, the thoughts will be understood. The negative thoughts and positive thoughts merge. Minus into minus is equal to plus. For me, all positive thoughts are also negative. Just because you are choosy, you are picky, suppressing the opposite side of you. No more suppression, no more control, no more manipulation, no more monitoring of your thoughts. You need unbiased, unprejudiced, uninclined observation of your own thought process in an investigative way, in a learning way. When the element of investigation, when the element of learning doesn't happen, when the learning temper doesn't exist, your thought process becomes totally erratic and the life is totally a collapse. Life becomes magnificent. Life becomes awesome only when thought processes are cleared. The thought clutters, thought clouds are cleared. Unless these clutters and clouds are cleared, you can never experience the silence of meditation. You must allow the space in such a way that thoughts organize themselves. You don't have to do anything. You never have to do anything. Practicing the so-called not doing anything is a real secret. In an easy way, effortless way. All these easy, effortless works are the spiritual exercises, otherwise called as meditation. The meditation process has to be awakened. The silencing process has to be awakened. Not the controlling factors, not this monitoring factors. It is only observation by way of investigation, by way of learning. Everything happens. Descartes, a great thinker, says, I think, therefore I am. Just because I am thinking, I do exist. If I don't think, I do not exist at all. Thinking makes huge difference. There is a difference between the man and the non-human. Human and non-human, the only difference is thinking process. When the thinking process is totally stopped in erratic way, when all the errors of thinking are totally stopped, then the man becomes evolved man, an illumined man. The generation next of the mankind will upsurge. And this is what is happening in the present days. In each cycle of evolution of mankind, there will be pulses of evolution. There will be pulses of enlightenment. And the present time of the mankind is highly exciting just because we are in the pulse of enlightenment. Enlightenment is more understandable. Enlightenment is more attainable in the present form of life, just by way of understanding our own thoughts and its process. In Sanskrit, we call alochana. Alochana, the word alochana is not synonymous with the English word thought. Thought is the vibration of the neuron. It is a vibration of the consciousness. Whether good or bad, erratic or non-erratic, whatever it may be, it is a simple vibration of the consciousness. But alochana is totally different. Lochana means eyes. Alochana means seeing things as they are. Seeing your friends and fellow men as they are, not the way you want them to be, not the way you need them to be. Seeing them as they are, seeing things as they are, that is called as alochana. That means this type of alochana happens in the space between the thoughts. Alochana is a spiritual, highly spiritual word, whereas thought is also spiritual only when the so-called alochana is totally understood. Unless the meaning of alochana is totally understood the way I'm explaining, the thought doesn't acquire any power. It will remain as a 0.5 volts. The entire universe is full of energy, vibration. Everything that it is visible as matter is basically vibration. A simple classical example. This body, human body, has got 65% of water. When 65% of the water exists in this physical body, which has a weight of 60 kilos or 100 kilos or 200 kilos, why I am appearing as a solid? Why I have a border, a definable border, a measurable entity? Even deep down, 90% of us, even if we move into the liquids, space. When we are 90% space, why should I appear as solid? Even if you go deep down, the subatomic space and all is nothing but space. Everything is space, emptiness. But we are erratically appearing as solids and identified more with these solid appearances, fixed appearances, rigid appearances. Yogis are those people who moved their consciousness, who shifted their consciousness from this solid matter form to reality form. Reality is we are basically vibration, we are basically space. We are basically beings. Unfortunately, acquired the disease of thinking excessively, thinking nonsense. So thought is so very, very, very important. I would like to share with you all a small Zen story, wherein a woodcutter used to pass by his village to go into the forest to collect wood. On the way, in the outskirts of the village, there used to be a big banyan tree with a saint meditating always. Whenever you pass by, he used to be in a meditation pose. He doesn't speak at all, or speaks very less, very, very less. But all the villagers used to respect him. So on one fine day, after many months of observation, this woodcutter went to the saint, curiously, enthusiastically, and asked him, Swamiji, I'm a woodcutter. Daily, early in the morning, I go to the forest to collect wood. I sell it in the market and feed my family and sleep. Again, next day, the same work. I'm working hard for almost 8 to 10 hours, sleeping for a few hours. I have taken also responsibility of my dependents. But yourself, you don't do any type of physical activity. You always sit like a lazy fellow under this tree, and you are respected by entire village. What is the difference between you and me? Then the saint smilingly told him like this. He said, the only difference between you and me is when I eat, I eat. He said, when I eat, I eat. This woodcutter was totally flabbergasted, perplexed. In a sense of total surprise and bewilderment, he asked the saint once again, Sir, I can't understand your language. Please explain. Unless we explain, I can't understand anything. So the saint told, when you eat food, because you are untrained, because your mind is not meditative, along with your food, you eat so many types of thoughts. Because of your finance, because of your family, because of your health, ill health, your friends, neighbors, relationships, so many things come into this current of mind. Along with your food, you eat so many thoughts and its vibrations. But when I eat only food. No thoughts come in my cerebral surface. That is the only difference. When I do certain activity, I just do it. I don't think. When I think, I only think, nothing else. For you, whatever that you do, you think more and more and more. Even when you eat food, you eat a lot of thoughts which are totally unrequired, unwanted, uninvited. That is the only difference between you and me. Then this woodcutter became his disciple and became a master like him later. So here, what we have to understand is the ability of shifting our focus from mind to space is the most important challenge, is the most important opportunity, is the only purpose of any human being. It is only shifting from mind to space. Mind space is the real power. Mind space is the real strength of human being. creating, expanding, identifying with this mind space is everything in life. The mind space includes the mind as well. And the mind is utilized or used only when it is required. Remaining time, it gets charged. It gets galvanized. It gets electrified. The mind acquires power. The thought acquires power. The thought acquires power only because of the thoughtlessness. The mind becomes more powerful because of this mind space. So the mind space has to be awakened, identified, activated, and we have to live in that mind space. That mind space is called as the soul. And it is the sole purpose of any human being to identify with this space. And that is what is called as meditation. And unless we meditate, unless we move this focus from mind to mind space, we can never evolve. The word evolution came from two words. Volukar means cover. Velop means cover, like envelope. E means without that, without cover. Evolve or evolution means removing this cover. Cover is nothing but the mind. When you remove that cover, everything is space inside. Everything is silence inside, the power inside. Gradually removing the power is called as the regular way of involving oneself in meditation. And daily we open something. Daily we evolve from nothing to something, better to best. We slowly evolve. And one fine day, we identify with the mind space so much so that we forget that we were idiots earlier. We cannot be any more idiot. Most of this world is filled with idiots. Their IQ levels are very low. Their IQ levels are calculated in terms of their ability to calculate math, the ability to understand the reason, physics, or any complicated ways of finding things. There is something called a spiritual quotient, spiritual IQ, which cannot measure, which cannot utilize the routine conventional tactics and tests of measuring the normal IQ. Spiritual IQ is totally different. Spiritual quotient is totally different. Emptiness cannot be measured. The silence cannot be measured. It is beyond all these measures and analysis, assessments, etc. So, dear friends, all this talk is given only to make understand the value of meditation, the significance of meditation, making ourselves more calmer, quieter, deeper, to reach the core of our consciousness. That is our real abode, the real home. That is arrival. In one incarnation, we arrive and stay in the center of our consciousness. And that sthiti, that state is called as the sthita pragnata. Means everything is stable. The consciousness is stable, unwavering, unfluctuating. It doesn't move with any types of thoughts. The thoughts have to come as per our wish, as and when we need. So thank you very much. Thanks a lot. If there are any questions or inputs, most welcome.
Sir, you gave one very new concept in terms of the phrasing, which you said instead of positive thoughts, we have to actually be choosing silence. That I think that's a great way of explaining how to stay positive, right? But see, we all wish to be like that, whichever way we actually phrase the purpose. But I think the only way we cannot understand is where are these thoughts sprouting from when we are actually wishing that we want to stay free of thoughts, basically choosing silence, as you say. But where do these things be sprouting from? Is there some other source? Is that under our control? or is there something which is not at all under our control and we can only watch them staying alert and then be free from them?
Yeah. So I defined earlier the meaning of the Homo sapiens. Let me also explain the meaning of the word man. Mankind, we say, right? The word man came from Latin menios. That means thinking. He who thinks is called as a man. He who doesn't think is not man. That means not human. It is non-human, be it animal or bird or whatever. That makes you think, makes you a man. So what is the major difference between this thinking being called as man or human and less thinking or no thinking being called as non-human? What makes you think? We are given, each human being has been given a faculty of something called as mind. What is this mind all about? This mind do exist even without physical body, please understand. Even after we vacate physical body, this type of thinking doesn't leave us, it stays with us. That is the reason why we need to understand the mind as a top priority of life. If there is a top priority in life, it is nothing but understanding oneself. Understanding the mind, the tricks, the antics, the tantrums of mind. Mind is a faculty of the consciousness. The cloudy part of consciousness is called as mind. The unconscious part of consciousness is called as mind. The dark aspect of consciousness is called as mind. The unexplored, unexperimented, untrodden aspects of consciousness is called as mind. When you put light on the mind, it absolutely dissolves. Mind has got power. Thought has power. But it cannot create another universe. Our thoughts cannot create another universe. Though each thought has got ability to manifest into things in no time, but still most of the human thoughts do not turn into manifestations. Why? Because they lack power. They think in a disastrous way. They think in a self-destructive way. They think in a self-sabotaging way. They think in a self-annihilation. We are addicted to this type of thinking. Most of the human beings are addicted to this type of thinking. And thoughts do emerge from the periphery of the consciousness called as mind. Mind is nothing but peripheralized consciousness. Mind is nothing but centrifugalized consciousness. Mind is nothing but the surface of the consciousness. When you take a radial path, when you take a nuclear path, more and more, if you take a radial path, more and more you understand silence, the more you understand mind space. When we reach the core, we understand the meaning of the utter silence, absolute silence, the real soulful state. The more we move away from the center, we identify ourselves as thinking beings. Out of many faculties of consciousness, thinking is only one faculty. Non-thinking is also one faculty which we are not aware of. Every creature other than human being knows and utilizes the greatness of non-thinking faculty of consciousness. While human beings dwell themselves well into the peripheral aspect of consciousness or thinking aspects of consciousness, the non-human beings dwell or prefer to stay in the core of consciousness. Human beings are addicted to prefer to stay in the periphery part of consciousness, or the thoughts part of consciousness, or the mind part of consciousness. These thoughts are the faculties of the consciousness itself. That is the reason why we are not able to internalize our consciousness. And once it is done, once the consciousness is internalized, then we will understand where we are living, where we have been living, the periphery or center. The yogis are those people who understood this radial path or nuclear path and moved inside themselves. A snake eating its own tail. They have internalized their own consciousness. They have taken a spiral way. They have not taken a linear way. Thoughts make you think in a linear way. Because they're in periphery, move in a linear way. But meditation takes you a radial path. It makes your consciousness internalized, involuted. It takes a spiral path instead of linear path. So our faculties need to be understood and they need to be utilized in a proper way, intelligent way, for highest purpose. The consciousness of Shiva or some other entity living in the non-physical reality or physical reality or some unknown reality, their thoughts turn into realities immediately. Whatsoever massive or huge that we think they are, they turn into manifestations in no time. That is the greatness of those entities. But for people who are living in this planet Earth, with all forces of gravitation working against them, their thoughts cannot reach such level of higher manifestations because we are engrossed, we are engulfed with our own idiotic thinking, peripheralized consciousness. And we are moving round and round the circle, thinking that we are growing, thinking that we are evolving, thinking that we are moving, thinking that we are learning. We are round and going round and round and round. This circular path going round and round path is the way of the average. It is not master's way. The master's way is take a radial path, go to the nucleus and stay there. Hiranyagarbha, bullseye. That is a target for a yogi. That is a target for a Buddha. Thoughts do emerge as a faculty of consciousness. And this faculty has become a big science. So many trainers called as personality trainers have emerged, taking the peripheralized aspect of this consciousness as a perspective, as a reference to build their own sciences. Unfortunate. We do need spiritual developers. We do need spiritual awakeners, so that we do also take a radial path. We do also take a nuclear path to reach our centers. The man, the thinking, the menios, the thinking aspect of man, he has to become a yogi. The man has to become a yogi. All the animals, to teach them obedience, we train them a lot. But for human beings, trainings are not required. Humans need awakening, not training. You can't train the soul. Trainings are meant for all animals, for obedience. When the humans are trained, they have become animals. They move into grooved thinking. They move in the tracks of thinking. They move in the known pathways of thinking. They never evolve. That's the reason why humans need more awakening, not training. Awakening is important. Dogs need training. Humans need awakening. All the creatures in the world, without the interference of mankind, they're absolutely wonderful, magnificent. The greatest challenge of humans is to understand the nature of their own consciousness. With the help of mind, they have to dissolve it. The mind has to be utilized to dissolve it. And once it is dissolved, once it is understood, you have arrived. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks a lot.
Any more inputs, questions? Thank you very much. So next Saturday, preferably same time, we'll meet up at 9 p.m.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
See you. Yeah.